May 29th, 1453. After 1,123 years of standing unconquered, the walls of Constantinople, the greatest fortress in the world, were about to fall. Inside, 7,000 defenders faced an army of 80,000. Outside those walls, the largest cannons ever built were tearing through stone that had protected an empire for over a millennium. This is the story of the last day of the Roman Empire.
Constantinople wasn't just any city. Built by Emperor Constantine in 330 AD, it was the capital of the Byzantine Empire, what remained of the ancient Roman Empire. While Rome itself had fallen in 476 AD, Constantinople survived. It survived the Huns, it survived the Persians, it survived Arab sieges, Viking raids, and even the Fourth Crusade. The secret? The Theodosian walls. These weren't ordinary fortifications. Picture this: a 20-foot wide moat, then a first wall 27 feet high, then a terrace, then an inner wall 40 feet high, with towers reaching 60 feet. The walls stretched for 4 miles along the land approach, and they were essentially impenetrable with medieval technology. At its height, Constantinople was home to 400,000 people. It was the richest city in Christendom, filled with churches, libraries, and palaces. The Hagia Sophia, its great cathedral, was an architectural wonder. But by 1453, the Byzantine Empire had shrunk to almost nothing. The city and a few surrounding territories were all that remained. Constantinople's population had fallen to just 50,000. The empire that once controlled the entire Mediterranean was now one city surrounded by a rising power, the Ottoman Empire.
In 1451, a 19-year-old became Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmed II. History would call him Mehmed the Conqueror, but he hadn't conquered anything yet. He was young, untested, and many doubted him, including his own advisors. But Mehmed had an obsession: Constantinople. The city was a thorn in the Ottoman Empire, sitting right in the middle of Ottoman territory, controlling the Bosphorus Strait, the vital waterway connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Previous sultans had tried to take it. All had failed. Mehmed decided to try something new. He would use the most advanced technology of his age. He hired a Hungarian engineer named Urban, who promised to build the largest cannon the world had ever seen. And he did. The Basilica cannon was a monster. It was 27 feet long, weighed 19 tons, and could fire a 600-pound stone ball over a mile. It required 60 oxen to move and a crew of 200 men to operate. When test fired, the sound could be heard 10 miles away. The cannonball buried itself 6 feet into the ground. In early April 1453, Mehmed's army appeared outside Constantinople's walls. 80,000 soldiers, hundreds of ships, and those massive cannons. Inside the city, Emperor Constantine XI had just 7,000 defenders, including 2,000 foreign volunteers who had come to help. On April 6th, the bombardment began. For the next 53 days, those massive cannons would fire at the walls day and night. The largest cannon could only fire 7 times a day. It took 3 hours to cool down and reload, but each shot was devastating. The walls that had stood for 1,000 years began to crumble. Each night the defenders would frantically repair the damage, piling up earth and timber behind the breaches. Each morning, the Ottoman cannons would tear their repairs apart. But Constantinople had one advantage: its naval defenses. A massive chain stretched across the Golden Horn, the harbor inlet, preventing Ottoman ships from entering. On April 20th, Ottoman ships tried to break through and were destroyed by the defenders. Mehmed was furious. So he did something unprecedented. If he couldn't sail his ships into the Golden Horn, he'd move them overland. On the night of April 22nd, Ottoman workers greased wooden tracks and, using oxen and manpower, dragged 70 ships over the hill and around the chain. The defenders woke up to find enemy ships in their harbor. The noose was tightening. Mehmed tried everything. Ottoman engineers dug tunnels under the walls to collapse them. The Byzantines countermined, breaking into the tunnels and fighting brutal underground battles. The Ottomans built massive siege towers. The defenders burned them with Greek fire. Inside the city, supplies were running low. The defenders were exhausted, repairing walls by night and fighting by day. They sent desperate messages west, begging for reinforcements from Christian Europe. On May 28th, Mehmed made his decision, one final all-out assault at dawn. He gave his army a day of rest and promised them 3 days of looting if they succeeded. That night, the Ottomans lit bonfires all around the city. Inside the walls, Emperor Constantine XI knew this was the end. The emperor attended one last service at the Hagia Sophia. He reportedly told his commanders, "The city is fallen, and I am still alive." He asked their forgiveness for any offense he might have given and prepared for the final battle. May 29th, 1453. Just before dawn, the assault began. First came waves of irregular troops, poorly armed but numerous, designed to exhaust the defenders and test for weak points. The Byzantines threw them back, but at great cost. Every defender who fell couldn't be replaced. Then came the professional soldiers, Mehmed's elite janissaries. These were the best-trained troops in the world, and they were fresh. The exhausted defenders fought desperately, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Then disaster struck. A small gate, the Kirko Porta, had been left unlocked after a sortie. Some accounts say it was accident, others say betrayal. It didn't matter. Ottoman soldiers found it, and within minutes, hundreds were pouring through. The defense began to collapse. At the main breach in the walls, the Genoese commander Giovanni Giustiniani, who had led the defense brilliantly for weeks, was wounded and carried from the walls. Seeing their leader fall, many defenders lost heart. Emperor Constantine XI, the last Roman emperor, tore off his imperial regalia. According to legend, he said, "The city is fallen, and I am still alive." He then charged into the breach with his remaining soldiers. His body was never identified, but witnesses reported seeing him fight until he fell, sword in hand. By mid-morning, it was over. Ottoman flags flew from the walls of Constantinople. The city that had stood for 1,123 years had fallen. Mehmed had promised his soldiers 3 days of looting, and they took it. The sack of Constantinople was brutal. Thousands died. Priceless artifacts, books, and treasures were destroyed or stolen. The great library's contents were scattered or burned. On May 30th, Mehmed entered the city. He rode directly to the Hagia Sophia and declared it would become a mosque. Constantinople was renamed Istanbul, though the name wouldn't become official for centuries, and became the capital of the Ottoman Empire. But something interesting happened. Byzantine scholars, fleeing the city with precious manuscripts, brought ancient Greek and Roman texts to Italy. Many historians argue this influx of classical knowledge helped spark the Italian Renaissance. The fall of Constantinople inadvertently fueled Europe's rebirth. For the Ottomans, this was just the beginning. Mehmed went on to conquer much of the Balkans and Anatolia. The Ottoman Empire would last another 470 years, finally collapsing in 1922. Today, Istanbul is a city of 16 million people, straddling Europe and Asia. The Hagia Sophia still stands, now a museum, a testament to both Byzantine glory and Ottoman triumph. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of the Middle Ages for many historians. The last remnant of the Roman Empire, which had lasted in some form for over 2,000 years, was gone. But perhaps Constantine XI said it best in his final speech to his soldiers, "I would rather die than live." He got his wish, and his city became the stuff of legend.